Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lorna McDaniel, and I am the president of Tempo Waukesha. We are now live streaming this program. I'd like to share with you some of our upcoming programs. Our next month program will be here again at Westmore Country Club, and we will be hearing from Katrina Cravey and Leanne Conway and how to be the best you can with your brand, style, and charisma. In June, please join us for our annual membership event with our special guest, Denise Thomas, who will share how great communicators are great leaders. We will be having this event at the Brookfield Conference Center just across the street. Our July event will be back here at Westmore, and we're looking forward to having a member networking luncheon. We also get together for healthy body and social activities. This past Saturday, some of us enjoyed a guided hike on the Ice Age Trail. It was so much fun. Stay tuned to our website and our emails, and your email box from us for some upcoming events. Our annual Celebrating Women Leaders event, Grit and Courage Under Pressure, will highlight the achievements of several outstanding female community and business leaders in southeastern Wisconsin. We will recognize women that have stood out and exemplified true grit. And we're very excited to announce that our keynote speakers, Jennifer Bartolotta and Beth Winook, will share with us their stories on grit and courage under pressure. Watch for emails or visit our website for sponsorship opportunities and nomination forms. We are currently connect virtually every month with both a cocktail connection and on the first Tuesday of the month, and a coffee connection on the second Thursday of the month. And we're hoping to add some in-person cocktail and coffee connections soon. Please stay tuned for that. Each quarter, Tempo selects a local nonprofit organization and contributes to that organization with a donation. This past quarter's nonprofit is Variety, the children's charity of Wisconsin, which we are supporting with a $500 check. I would like to invite Dua up here to tell us about her organization.
Good afternoon. My name is Dua Vang-Ramirez, and I'm here on behalf of Variety, the children's charity of Wisconsin. And I'd like to thank Tempo Waukesha for choosing Variety to be the recipient of the first quarter Community Impact Grant. Variety of Wisconsin is a nonprofit organization located in Waukesha County, whose mission is to enrich the lives of children with physical or developmental special needs. Our vision is that all children, regardless of ability or income, are able to participate in their community and experience the joys of childhood. We serve 999 families throughout the entire state of Wisconsin, and 122 of those families reside here in Waukesha County. Variety is a multifaceted organization that delivers life-changing services. We aim to make the world more accessible for children by providing funding for mobility and other enabling equipment so that they can gain mobility, confidence, independence, and access to their community. Additionally, Variety provides free family events that build community through education, experiences, and play. These events are provided at no cost to the family and foster socialization and inclusion. These events allow families the opportunity to connect, to network, support one another, and simply to be active members of their community. Oftentimes, the head of these households are women. And in addition to taking care of their child's medical needs, they often also have to navigate a complex healthcare system, all the while being the primary advocate for their child's special educational needs and serving as a case manager. The common voice that we hear from these women is that raising a child with special needs can be lonely and scary. So we aim to alleviate the isolation and feeling of loneliness by providing a support system and community where they belong. So we are honored that Tempo Waukesha is partnering with Variety to serve the needs of women and girls in Waukesha County. So thank you.
Thank you, Dua. I would like to now introduce Liz Sparks, our VP of Programming, who will get us introduced to our speaker.
Thank you. Hi and welcome everybody again. My name is Liz Sparks and I am the Vice President of Programs for Tempo Waukesha. I wanted to reiterate the welcome again and thank you for joining us for our April luncheon. Jesse with JBP Solutions LLC is providing the online streaming for Tempo today. As a reminder, we are live streaming. And so online participants will be asked, if you want to ask questions, make sure you're logged into the YouTube account and then submit the questions online and I will facilitate those. Today's topic, as you are already aware, is about adaptability. I am pleased to introduce Nancy Kane from Kane Marketing Services and an executive mentor with Executive Agenda. Nancy Kane has 30 years of experience in marketing, public relations, and sales with top companies in the industrial, insurance, and financial services industries. Throughout her career, she has been instrumental in helping these companies increase market share by designing and executing strategic marketing and sales initiatives. Nancy is the founder and owner of Kane Marketing Services. She assists companies, I copied and pasted that twice. She is passionate about helping the companies she works with to achieve their goals. Her strong communication, Alverno alum, problem solving, and human resources skills enhance her abilities to partner with and effectively serve the interests of her clients. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Nancy Kane.
I have to turn myself on here. Good afternoon. How are you all today? Can you imagine a better location to be than out overlooking on a beautiful day, this lovely golf course? So I am so delighted to be here, not only to see the beautiful views, but to spend a little bit of time with you at Tempo Waukesha. And I appreciate the invitation to talk a little bit about adaptability with you all today. How many of you think about adaptability at all in your lives, whether you are or aren't, or how much time? Raise your hand if you do. Yeah, I think a lot of us do. I would have to say, given this last year, adaptability is probably one of those key things that we think about a lot, isn't it? So that's what we're going to talk about today. I think the sound system wants to speak along with me. Are we doing good? Okay, fantastic. So adaptability, it's the new competitive advantage according to Harvard Business Review's an article by Martin Reeves and Mike Demler. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of the concepts that they share with us on adaptability. So we're talking AQ. You guys have heard of EQ, right? IQ? Well, we're talking about AQ now because adaptability is so critically important to us. So I think back and I think about that wonderful quote from Charles Darwin, who I still think has got it right. It's not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent. It's the one that is the most adaptable to change. So adaptability is one of the top soft or essential skills we need to survive and thrive. Would you guys agree with that? I think it's pretty darn important to all of us, and I don't know that we know necessarily how to be adaptable or how to train ourselves to be adaptable. So it's essentially, how well we and our organizations adapt to rapidly changing circumstances. And I want to make that correlation today. We're going to talk about how we can be adaptable, but thinking about that, what can we do for our organizations to help them be adaptable as well? So that might mean in an organizational sense that how we quickly respond to changing trends, innovations, maybe destabilization, industry shifts, among other things. And this ability to adjust or shift makes us nimble. And that's important because as we're talking about our lives, our businesses, and our world these days is really all in flux. And again, in our COVID-centric world, think about the amount of adapting everyone in this room has had to do in the last year or so. Could you even imagine that you would be this adaptable? Even today, our live streaming is an example of how adaptable this organization is to all of its members to make sure we're connected with everyone. So adaptability is something we've had to master. We've been thrown into it, right? You adapt or you don't survive. So I think to go beyond reactive and get into the proactive sphere is really what we want to think about here today. Does that make sense? Yeah, okay. So let's just say this. We're busy. Successful women. Maybe some of us are hot and heavy into our careers today. Maybe we're on the other side of that career cycle and we're retired. But no matter where we are in that cycle of life, we are adapting. Things are changing around us. But one of the interesting things that I've found as I read this article and pondered it, as individuals, it's really easy for us all to be busy with the things that have always made us successful. We know how to do things, right? We've been around, we're good at things. And we like those things that we're good at. And as business leaders, we tend to focus on almost entirely on the things that maybe drive the profitability and success of our business. And that works, I think, for us most of the time. And it's really comfortable, right? Because that's what we've always done. We know how to do it. But I would say, what about the rest of the time? If we want to be adaptable and grow, we have to challenge our deeply held beliefs on things. Now that's an area that I hadn't thought seriously about when I started investigating and looking at this topic, but we really need to investigate those things that we hold deeply and dear to us. And it's important because sometimes these are the things that actually do make us successful. An example of that would be my career. Liz outlined that I was a marketing person in my career. I ran the corporate ladder, I did it. My idea of success was really defined from the outset as a young career woman and as I progressed in my career. And I got to a certain point and I went, this isn't necessarily making me happy. I had to check on what really success could and should be for me. And I decided that it probably wasn't doing the career ladder that I was doing, but maybe something a little bit different. So I started a consulting business in marketing and I eventually became a mentor for Executive Agenda. Much more suited for me and where I wanted to be in my life. But I really had to ponder that idea of what success could and should be for me. But when I did that, it wasn't an easy journey to kind of say, okay, I'm going to flip a switch now and just change. I really had to spend some time thinking and wondering and almost kind of pushing myself to do it. And why might that be? Well, it's not so easy to change, as a matter of fact. We think we can, we think we do, but our brains really don't like adaptation. They don't. But adaptation is critical in business and in life. When it's the what's in it for me is more important. Our brains are great at coming up with really good and rational ways to resist that adaptation. As of them passed away. I think that's powerful and it's really, really sad. So, even though we know better, even when it's a matter of life and death, the motivation to change isn't always enough. Our really active and wonderful brains are always going to find ways to find evidence of what we've always done is still okay. We talk to ourselves and we say, it's still, this is good, I like this. And why? Because changing habits can be difficult or painful. I apologize. And sound systems can be difficult and painful on our ears. When our brain tells us, I know I have to find time to do this differently, and I'll definitely do it tomorrow. Well, if we were to and not the things that are difficult. So it makes sense. Old habits die hard, especially the ones that have contributed to our previous success or we're really, really comfortable with. But now let's talk, and I didn't change the slide, so now you can read my words. There you go. But let's talk a little bit for a moment about organizational adaptability. Given how we've just discussed how difficult adaptive change is for us as individuals, are we surprised at all that it's even harder sometimes and maybe almost impossible within the organizations we work for? What are organizations but groups of individuals coming together for a shared purpose? So that resistance to change, that difficulty with adaptability, is a challenge for our companies because of that. So changing the way we work is also difficult. Getting people to let go of something they found useful in the past takes time, effort, and real focus. So think about any of the changes you've tried to institute in your organization. Have they always gone as easily as you thought they would? I don't see a hand raised here, and I didn't ask for it, but I don't see anything. Yeah, we make change really easy. Doesn't always work that way. So as we know, most of us as business people, we work hard to set a vision, goals, and values, and then we're kind of surprised when our employees don't embrace our vision of change. Even though we find new and better ways of doing things, teams and individuals cling to some of their underperforming ways. I've seen evidence from some of my executive agenda members, even where they've uncovered a business myth that is actually propping up underperformance. Teams and individuals really want to hold on to it. And a good phrase that you might think of that really illustrates that is, well, but that's the way we've always done it. But that's the way we've always done it. I can't tell you how many times I've heard that in my own career and with the folks that I mentor and coach. And a story about that, or a way to think about this as well, is there's scientific research to prove that there is a link between whether people like you and whether they rate you, how they rate you professionally as a boss. Between they like you and how they rate you. So in a Harvard study of over 50,000 leaders, only 0.1% of those who were disliked by their teams were also perceived as being good at their jobs. Interesting, isn't it? How hard would that be to read if you were a 50-year-old executive who'd always says, I'm not here to be liked, I'm here to be respected? How do you think that person would feel reading that? Whoa. I guess our brains just don't like that sort of curveball. We have a complex system of thinking that's there for a good reason, to protect us from the shame of being wrong or the disappointment of wondering maybe what could have been. So instead, our brains try to keep us safe from shame and disappointment and quickly find evidence that justifies that questionable belief. But that's what AQ is about. It's developing confidence and mental agility to adapt even your most strongly held beliefs and assumptions if you find they might be wrong, if you're open to the fact that they might be wrong. So a leader who is not bothered previously about being liked with low AQ would probably stick to the first rationale and dismiss the research out of hand and just gets back to work as normal. It takes much more work, and it's harder to develop a higher AQ. Or maybe you feel a little ashamed of being kind of thinking that being at times needing to adapt, and it's a sense of weakness. It's not a sense of weakness, but that discomfort of maybe thinking it is a way that you might need to be more brave and uncomfortable, and then think, wow, if I were a little more open to that, what might it have been like if I knew that 20 years ago? Well, heck, maybe I could change that today. So it's that ability to open yourself up to change and see yourself. And it's hard for us to do that. Management paradigms, if we're staying on the business thing here, management paradigms die hard, especially when they have historically been the basis for success. Management paradigms die hard, especially when they've been historically the basis for success. However, according to the adaptability article I referenced at the beginning of this presentation by Martin Reeves and Michael Demler, there are 6 things that you can do to train you and your organization to be more adaptive. They include asking questions, and we'll go through some of those categories, and spend some time thinking about alternatives, disruptors, assumptions, plans, threats, and speed. Let me walk you through them. Alternatives. Think about the next time you looking for a change proposal in your organization, think about requiring that any of those proposals have several suggested alternatives, not just one. That's a favorite, but several suggested alternatives. This encourages cognitive and organizational flexibility. How about disruptors? We've seen a lot of disruptors in our world recently. Ask questions that set an expectation that the leaders in your business are thinking about what the disruptors on the edges of your business are doing, not just what your competitors are doing. As a marketer, that was something I constantly looked at. What are competitors doing? How do we measure ourselves against competitors? But think about this, we're asking to push the boundaries a little bit. Those disruptors that might be on the edge of your business, not necessarily your main competitors. How about this one? Assumptions. Get into the habit of reflecting and asking questions about what you think you all know. Are there some firmly and widely held beliefs that you have the courage to challenge? And let's think about that. I'm talking organizational work here, but think about that in your individual lives as well, in your family lives, maybe with your friends. What are some of the things, those widely held beliefs that might be keeping us in place in a way that we perhaps don't want or need to be? Planning. Do you spend quality time and energy thinking and reflecting on plans that take your business beyond what you know? What are the megatrends? What do you not know? I always love that question. How do you go from, I don't know what I don't know, how do I make that leap? How about threats? Treat threats or risk to your business with rigor. Now this part, we might all, because we've done SWOT analysis, some of us in business, right? So we've looked at our threats, but this takes it a step further. Treat it with rigor. This is something I've never thought about doing and loved this when I read this. Assign responsibility for exploring and measuring future threats with the same passion you measure yesterday's performance. Assign responsibility for someone to look into it. Make it concrete. This last one's useful as well. Speed. Increase your clock speed. Make annual reviews lighter and consider how to transform any processes you do on a monthly or annual basis into an activity that takes minutes, not hours. We all like process. It's good for our companies, but are we overwhelmed by it sometimes? How can we back off from that? And again, it allows for creativity and thinking in a different way. A lot of these questions are really built around that. So, I think when I mentioned assumptions before, there was some head nodding. I think we're all wired to make assumptions. We do it, whether we like to or not. But we can train our brains to stand back and check them out for what they really are. We can then decide if the things that we're protecting are actually the same things that are holding us back. Had you ever thought about that idea? The things that you protect can actually hold you back. So let's talk about increasing your AQ then. In an organizational setting, remind yourself and your organizations regularly that some widely held beliefs and processes are actually based on questionable or outdated assumptions. Remember that when you question them, it'll initially be normal for individuals and teams to want to hold tightly onto them. Don't be surprised if you do that. Or again, think about your families. Think about other things outside of work. And then I've got a couple of things for you all to think about in the ways that you can personally look to train yourself to be more adaptable. We've talked about ways in which we can help our organizations, but I think as individuals, we can go a little deeper ourselves. So here are a few things to consider. Number one, change your thought processes. Let go of the "this is the way we've always done it" mentality, And while change can be scary and intimidating, and Nancy, you and I talked about that a little bit before we started today, embrace it and look at change as an opportunity to improve, learn, and grow. It can certainly open the door to creativity as well. This also means, though, you need to be open to the thoughts and opinions of others and their different perspectives. This is a huge challenge for us today in this divisive society that we're in. Probably one of the most important things you can do is to open your mind to others' perspectives. Force yourself to take little risks. We talked about being a little scared. Little progress is made without what? Risk. How many of you guys would define yourself as risk takers? Whoa, a couple. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. I, unfortunately, you noticed, did not raise my hand. I don't view myself as a risk taker, and I think it's one of the things that I'd like to change about myself. I think taking risks is critical. For some, the idea of taking risks is so adverse that they'll run from it as fast as they can. But taking risks is a key part of being adaptable. Start small to increase your comfort. And actually, in your team meetings at work, discuss risk-taking as part of your team meetings. Bring it up as a topic. Bring it out in the open. Understand where people are on that continuum of risk-taking. Encourage others to be open-minded. You know, as leaders in your organization, as leaders in your families, one of the best ways you can develop an open mind is encourage others to do the same thing. This creates a more open atmosphere in and around you, further encouraging your open-mindedness and to continue the cycle. It also serves as a means to shut down closed-minded thinking. And again, and getting rid of that, it's always how it's been done mentality. And finally, embrace learning. It's something we're very fond of in Executive Agenda. People who are curious and stay current tend to be adaptable. This means you need to embrace learning. Read up about new technologies in your industry. Go to seminars. Attend events like this. Connect with colleagues who have this kind of vision and learn from them. And read what they read. Open yourself up to learning in every capacity of your life. Now it's time to do something a little fun. We're going to take an adaptability quiz. So you've learned about some of the ways in which I'm suggesting that you might think about being adaptable, but you might want to understand your own adaptability. So we have quizzes at the table. If you have pens, that's great. Otherwise, there's a QR code, which I'm going to move to in a minute. You can use your phones to go on. And for those of you who are remote, you can use the QR code in the presentation to actually, there you go, I'll put it in a larger format, to actually take the quiz. So we'll give you 2 to 3 minutes, and then we'll have some discussion afterward. let's get started. So, you added up your scores. Let's just take a high level. I'm not going to ask you to raise your hands, but I'll give you some idea of where you might fall on the spectrum. 10 to 20 points. If you had 10 to 20 points on this, might be time to retire or get out of the way. Just saying. 21 to 30. You may need help with a coach or a mentor on adaptability. 31 to 40. You're on your way to being adaptable. 41 to 45. You are change agent material, and you should be mentoring others. So, did anybody hit that 41 to 45? Yeah, I didn't either. All right, we don't have any adaptability coaches here. I may talk about this topic, but I'm still working on it. Perhaps that's the best way to be a speaker. I'm not a perfectionist. I work hard at it. But I'm curious, and if you look, we've got a couple of things here, and we want to open the discussion up now to any questions that you might have, and actually not even just questions, but responses. And there's two things that I wanted you to think about here. What surprised you as you looked at these questions and your responses to the questions? And then what might you do based on your score? Maybe that low scoring area, what might you do to become more adaptable? Okay, those are the questions. And it's for those of you who are here in the room and for those of you who are watching. And Liz is monitoring, so if you have a comment and want to share your thoughts on that, please do. But let's open it up to the room. And Lorna's got a mic, so we're going to ask you, when she comes to you, wait to ask your question until she's with you, or make your comment.
Good afternoon. I'm curious, because all organizations, because of COVID, have had to find adaptability. We've all had the favorite word, pivot. Mm-hmm. I'm just wondering how you feel about there's adaptability fatigue. So you want to move forward. So our organizations have to continue to adapt. There's competitive situations. There's a lot of reasons, right? You have to keep moving forward. But a lot of employees right now are kind of tired of having to adapt over the past year to new ways of doing business, to serving customers, to working with each other. And I just wonder if you have a thought on how you continue to adapt as an organization in a moment in time where people are tired.
That's such a good question, and I think very indicative of a lot of the conversations I see with the folks that I work with as well. There's lots of kind of fatigues out there, but adaptability fatigue certainly is one of them. I think as leaders of our organizations, whether it's a team leader or a head of an organization, we need to model and set the pace, and we can't say we're not going to stop adapting. We can't in order to survive. So it's the messaging, it's the we're in it together. We will get through this. It will calm down. So the message of hope, I think, is important. The other thing I would say for those of us who are caring and worrying about our people, you came with a very empathetic question, and I think showing empathy and care and concern and really listening to our employees when they come to us with that, adaptability fatigue, helping them through it. I guess that's what I would see, because we're not going to stop, unfortunately. Yes?
Nancy, I don't know if this is a question or a comment, but when we're looking at the assessment and the statement, I never fall in love with my wins and proactively seek out the next challenge, I had to read that multiple times, because if 5 is a good answer for that, 5 is great if I'm proactively seeking out the next challenge, but I struggle with I never fall in love with my wins, because for me that's a challenge. I will celebrate everybody else's victories, but I don't take the time to say, hey, I'm pretty awesome, or hey, what I did was pretty cool. It's like, boom, nope, you got to do the next thing. And I think that ultimately then that it leads to a little bit of burnout, because you can fall into the I'm not good enough because I always need to do better. So I don't know if I misinterpreted that or if you have a different take on that.
I don't have a distinctly different take on it. I would use a kind of a focus on the word. I think fall in love is the phrase that I want to kind of speak to, which is different to me than celebrate. And I think it's important and critical to celebrate our wins and give ourselves attaboys. I think the falling in love in this case really represents, I fall in love so much with the idea that I never change it up and I continue to do the same thing over and over again. That's in the context, but you make such a valid point, and celebrating wins is so critical. Yeah.
I mean, I fell in love with my husband over this past year.
And then there's that. I'm not going to ask for a raising of hands on that one either. Just saying. Okay, Lorna's coming.
Hi. So my question is, what recommendations do you have on how to empower leaders in your organization to be adaptable? The quotation marks, we always do it this way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You know, I'd go back to some of the points that were made that I made in the earlier presentation. You know, I think, first of all, expectation in those areas. What are we expecting our leaders to do? How are we challenging them? Are we asking them to ask the questions? I want to go back to a couple of things here. If you think back, you know, right, we could just take assumptions right here. Ask your leaders to think about what they really know. You know, what do they believe in, and to question those beliefs. You know, we've always done it this way. What can you question about that? What can you ask them to consider differently? The other thing I like very much is this alternative one. Require that, you know, if you want change to happen, ask them to come with different proposals and different ideas, opening up their thinking. Partly what you want to try to do, I think, is get their minds to work in different ways than they have before. Yeah. Those would be two suggestions. Anybody else? Thank you. You're welcome. Great questions today, by the way. Thank you.
I love the idea of the accountability for the distractors and the threats. Mm-hmm. How do you see that happening often in organizations?
I don't, which is why I found it so interesting, because I think I see more the other. You know, we really we look at what our successes are and analyze our numbers that way. No, I think that's a very different mindset that we talk about with some of my members and in some of my groups. It's something that we are striving for, but it's hard to achieve. Because let's talk about resources, right? They're limited. We tend to put them where they're going to be most influential in the immediacy of our business. We don't look out and we don't push out. So when I say rigor, I mean that's a discipline where we have to say we're going to intentionally do something that's not serving the business today and really focus on tomorrow.
Yeah, that proactivity, I think, is something that so many companies just don't, like you said, they don't have the resources, or you're so busy working in the moment that I liked that edge of a threat, that, you know, the distractor, that edge, I think is so important if you want to still be successful in a few years.
I agree. And, you know, I think a lot of us, how many of you do strategic planning for your companies? Yeah. You guys do the old SWOT analysis that... So we talk about them, right? We put them on that page, and then maybe we have a strategy or two we say we're going to respond to them, but we don't give it the, I think, intentionality that it probably deserves. So as the next time you do one of those, you know, think about that a little bit more deeply and push your teams to give a focus on the edges, on the fringes, on those mega trends. A lot of the things that we're really trying to get at in the SWOT analysis. Okay. Liz, anything coming?
Nope.
All right. Well, I'll be here for a little bit if anybody wants to chat afterward. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you about adaptability, and I hope you learned a little something today that you can take back for your family, yourself, and your business. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. There's a lot of what you've said will definitely be able to use even personal life. So I'm really, really excited to, you know, start using some of those. I wanted to thank everybody. I think we've got, do we have final? There we go. All right. I wanted to thank everybody for attending and also to encourage you to please follow us on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and then visit our website for any additional information you may have or any questions you may have about our organization. You can please email us and we'll be able to get back to you. I wanted to, we've often ended in quotes, and I had a quote. Charles Darwin was one of the quotes I was going to say, but I had another one, and it's by Dolly Parton. We cannot direct the wind, but we can adjust the sails to help us to be more adaptable. Everyone have a great afternoon.